All right, we're about to go live on Facebook, everyone. Stand by. Do you see this?
You are unmuted.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for being a few minutes late beginning this committee meeting for April the 14th of 2020. It's about 9:15 now, but understand we are live now on Facebook as well as live on Macon-Bibb TV. So pursuant to the instructions from the President of the United States, the Honorable Donald J. Trump, Governor of the state of Georgia, Honorable Brian Kemp, as well as Mayor of Macon-Bibb County. The Macon-Bibb County Committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, April the 14th, 2020 will be available to the Macon-Bibb County Commissioners by video conference only for the 9:00 a.m. Committee of the Whole meeting. Commission chambers will be closed to the public and the press, and we follow the recommendation from the White House to limit public gatherings for the next 2 weeks or so in order to slow the spread of COVID-19. Therefore, the public and press may only access the meeting simultaneously online at www.maconbibb.us or www.facebook.com/Macon-Bibb County. So welcome. We wanted to start this morning with a series of updates and announcements for the commissioners as well as to the public. And I understand that Spencer Hawkins is with us this morning. I've asked him to give us an update in the form of announcements on the weather that we've had come through Macon on Sunday night, early Monday morning. Spencer, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead. Please give us an update on the weather report and what happened to us.
Okay. Well, we knew we were going to get some weather, and we got it. There was significant severe weather throughout our region throughout late Sunday into early Monday morning. It looks like sometime around 3 a.m. We got what appears to be at this point a very small minor tornado. With that being said, though, it did impact some pretty significant damage. The main area that it hit was the Zebulon Road shopping center area. If you know, between Peak Road and Bass Road, there's the Walmart, Walgreens, Lowe's, all of those businesses over there were impacted. The Walgreens was probably the most severely impacted. And then it looks like it moved on and went to a housing development, a neighborhood behind the new lofts that were built, and knocked down tons of trees and impacted some homes back there. We have contacted the American Red Cross. They're working with some of those folks that were impacted. And we have also working with the National Weather Service to get an official determination on whether it was a tornado or not. However, working with some of our local meteorological experts, it looks like it was a tornado, but we still have to get that determination from the National Weather Service. So any quick questions on the severe weather?
Any questions from any of our commissioners of Spencer about the weather or the damage that we had?
Oh, and no injuries, no fatalities that we've been reported to us. So we got very lucky.
That is good. No doubt about that. Interestingly enough, let me make a comment or two. Our county manager, Dr. Keith Moffitt, sent an email out a week or so ago to our employees, all employees, and in pertinent part, Dr. Moffitt's email to our employees says this: while the governor's order classifies government work as essential and to remain open, I want you to know, and I view you as essential for a completely different reason. In challenging and uncertain times, people seek some sense of normalcy and look forward to a return to better times. We are that sense of normalcy. We are the bedrock foundation for our community. We are the community's sense of normalcy that they can look to and see that there is some normal aspect of life. We continue to serve our friends, families, and neighbors. They see law enforcement patrolling the streets. They see firefighters protecting us. They see the trash being picked up. They see checks being cut for services rendered so their businesses can stay afloat. They see legal services being provided. They see commission meetings still happening. They see traffic and stoplights still being repaired. They see the road repairs happening. When they walk through a park with their family, they notice that the grass is still being cut. They are watching our new online health and wellness videos and so much more. Interestingly enough, this tornado comes through and we had this report from Rob Riles and Facilities Management. He says the traffic signals, Zebulon at Peak Road, all signals gone. In addition to the Walgreens storefront, short on three-phase feeding at Walgreens, caught Georgia Power pole on fire, stopped work for a while, but finishing up late. At the intersection of Zebulon Road and Plantation Drive, some signals gone, signals replaced, up and running. At Montpelier and Pinona, some dangling signals replaced, up and running. Approximately 20 traffic signals broken down and replaced. Power out at two intersections, 2nd Street and Gray Highway. Georgia Power restored about 4:00 p.m. Bass, Falston, Zebulon Power restored. Traffic signal cabinets repaired. About 2:30 signals back up and running. North side at Tom Hill not working, bad CPU problem, lighting repaired and up and running. Arkwright Road and Sheridan Drive not working in flash, repaired, up and running. And again, so much more. And I told it's almost prophetic that Dr. Moffitt would mention repairs to street lights and stoplights and intersections. And less than a week later, here we have this tornado come through and do all this damage to streetlights. So I've told Rob Riles, I'm proud of him, proud of his team, but I'm proud of everybody that seems to be pitching in during these very difficult times. And I just think it's commendable that our employees are doing such great work and continuing as we kind of go through this a period of strange and uneasiness with this COVID-19. Speaking of COVID-19, Spencer, if you're still there, I wish you would give us an update on COVID-19 and in particular, the developments at Navicent Hospital. Please, sir.
Yes, sir. The health department releases numbers. We'll start with the numbers first. Health department releases the numbers at noon and 7 p.m. each day. So the numbers from 7 p.m. last night, statewide in Georgia, 13,621 cases, 480 deaths. Macon-Bibb County specific, 73 cases with 1 death. We're continuing to work very closely with the health department and making sure that we are working with them and providing what information they need and being good partners. With this COVID-19, the guidelines are changing almost daily. And so we're having some good time. We're having a good time working with everybody and making sure that we're getting the latest information and getting it out to everyone, all of our citizens that need that information. As far as Navicent Health, we are working with Navicent works very closely with the Georgia Emergency Management Agency and all of our partners. Should a temporary hospital need to be set up, we know yesterday the governor announced that Macon would be a site for a temporary hospital, and we've been in conversation with all of our medical partners to ensure that we are prepared should something like that be necessary. Nothing has been officially signed as of yet, but we are still working to make sure that should something happen, we're ready to respond.
May I ask?
Questions?
Yes, Spencer. I understood the governor to say this would also, Macon would also be another testing site. You said to set
I
up
would have to look into that. The information I did not hear the governor's press conference yesterday. Let me take that back, look into it, and I'll provide you an answer later on today.
Okay, thank you, because I understood our state was behind on testing and they wanted to get a new testing site, and I thought he mentioned Macon.
I'll look into that.
Thank you.
And Spencer, can I ask you a quick question? Are Navicent's confirmed cases included in the number of confirmed cases in Bibb County?
The way that the health department reports out cases is that it's based on the patient's place of residence. So this is not real numbers. For example, if Navicent had 100 people currently admitted, or we'll make it easy, 10 people currently admitted at Navicent with COVID-19, if 5 of them were in Bibb County and 5 of them were in Monroe County, then it'd be reported out as 5 for Bibb and 5 for Monroe.
So,
It's not based on where they're being treated, it's based on where the patient lives.
so in other words, Navicent's confirmed cases for people who live in Bibb County are being reported to the health department and included in their figures.
Every confirmed case, COVID-19 is a mandatory reportable infection. And so every reported case is absolutely reported to the health department. And then those are put out the way that they are at 12 and 7 based on the place of residence. So it really is inconsequential where the person is being treated, whether it's at Navicent or Coliseum or something, or HCA Coliseum or anything of that nature. It's where they live, where they call home.
Okay, thanks for that.
Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions? Yeah, Joe Allen?
Yes, sir. This is for you and Spencer. Have we tested our law enforcement officers as well as our firefighters and the correctional officers at the sheriff's office? You know, they're out amongst people all the time. And I understood that we had an issue that came up at a fire not long ago where somebody and a member of a family from a firefighter had the COVID-19. Have we started that, or can we start that to check those individuals?
I don't know that we have the availability of the testing kits, but we can certainly look into that, Commissioner. I just don't know the answer to that. I understand that there's still a shortage. They're trying to come up with testing kits and then the turnaround time, but certainly we can look into that and whether or not some people are recommending that everybody be tested. And the downside to that is it takes that many more testing kits to test, just say all 155,000 residents of Macon-Bibb County.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking.
Right. Some say that you need to have some symptoms before you're tested. So, but we can certainly look into that and see what the potential is for testing. Then the other bad thing I will have to say, this is just me talking, and it's just personal opinion. But you can have a test today, and it can take, let's just say, 5 days turnaround, and comes back and says you're negative. Well, what if you were contacted and in communication with somebody 2 days after you took the test? Well, now you may be, it changes day to day. So it really is a moving target for the testing. So it's not a matter of one time and you're done, because like I say, you can become or you can contract the disease the day after you get tested.
Yeah.
Current DP guidelines are what they're focused on with testing is anyone who is symptomatic, displaying those symptoms, or if there is direct contact with a symptomatic or a positive test person. And so that's what we're going with. But like the mayor said, I will look into it. I'll go with the health department and follow back up with Dr. Moffett.
I appreciate you. Good
Miss
job.
Mayor,
Commissioner Lucas?
thank
Go
you,
ahead.
thank you. Commissioner Allen and I both serve on the Board of Health, and we're having teleconference meetings every Friday morning to go over stats and other kinds of things. And we appreciated Spencer being on the call last Friday, this past Friday. And we were concerned because, first of all, Senator Lucas is trying to get Macon designated as a testing site. Warner Robins is a testing site. And a lot of folks questioned why Macon-Bibb, what Macon was not a testing site. So I hope that what Valerie is saying is true, that Macon is now or is going to be a testing site. The other thing that I'm hearing a lot from the family members of folks who work in factories, all of our large factories who are still working. And their main question is what safety measures, what precautionary measures are being taken with those. And I know we can't go into a company, but I know the industrial authority works with all of the companies, and they could at least bring back to us the process that's used for ensuring that maybe the temps are taken on a regular basis during the shifts and things like that. I'd like to know so that I could tell people who call me what's being done in these different factories, because if somebody tests positive, if somebody's positive, they're taking it back to their family. And it's just back and forth. So that's a concern that's been expressed, and the health department is working on that. But I'd just like to know if others have those similar concerns and would like for us on the Board of Health to continue pursuing getting that information.
You sure? And I think good point, Commissioner Lucas. I would say that the governor's order specifically exempts critical infrastructure and says that that's one of the exceptions to the shelter at home place. But even so, there is a list of precautions that the employer is supposed to take to ensure as much social distancing as is possible or feasible in the place of employment, and employees are rotated and shifted and moved around. So inside in the governor's order are the list of requirements. And so, yes, I certainly think we can call on all of our employers, and I've been contacted by some of them that tell me how they're taking this seriously, and they're trying to take steps to ensure that no employees that show symptoms are permitted to come to work. They're told to stay home, et cetera, et cetera.
Information, is that written somewhere? Is that available?
The governor's order?
No, the process that employers are putting their employees through to ensure that no one's, got a fever or, that the distance requirement is being kept. Because it's my understanding from some family members that the distance requirements are not being
Right,
kept.
but the list that I'm talking about is actually contained in the governor's order. So it's the list of things that the employer is supposed to do if they are remaining open as critical infrastructure.
So may I ask, may I follow up?
Yes, sir.
And I guess the question is more for legal. What is Macon-Bibb County's ability to create some type of minimum requirement surrounding PPE or safety? Right.
I'll let the county attorney answer that.
Here too, so I wouldn't mind if they chimed in as well.
Sure. And if I heard the question right, Commissioner Watkins, is what is Bibb County's ability to enforce, try to regulate additional safety measures for employers?
Correct. But not even
Did I hear that right?
The governor's already set forth.
Because of the governor's order, we cannot do anything different than what's contained in his order in terms of social distancing. And if you're, what the order says is if you're critical infrastructure, you can go to work, but you've got to try to maintain these certain things that Commissioner Lucas and the mayor were talking about a second ago. We can't vary from that at all under the terms of that order. We have very little control over, legal control over what we can impose on local businesses because of that statewide order superseded our ability to regulate it. What we can do is encourage people to maintain social distancing and follow safety procedures. We can do that, and we can try to disseminate information, but we have very little authority, actually no authority to impose any additional regulations not contained in that governor's order.
So you mentioned not being able to supersede the regulation, but to enforce the regulations and I guess monitor compliance. Is that
right?
Is that within locals' purview, or is that we're expecting the state agency?
No, we can, the local government through the sheriff's department can enforce to the extent they can the shelter in place order of the governor. We do have that authority. We can't vary from it, but for example, if somebody were violating it and we knew about it, the sheriff can take action.
All right. Logistically, how would that work for, Commissioner Lucas just mentioned that she's heard anecdotally of some places that may need some type of review. So how logistically do we make that happen?
Yeah, what I have seen or heard from some of the commentary from ACCG, in the municipal association, is that if you see something, if a citizen, for example, sees that what they think is a violation, then they should report it. I don't want to speak for the sheriff because I know there's limited resources and what he can do. But for example, what the sheriff couldn't do is go into private property and go into somebody's house without probable cause of a crime committed. But for example, if somebody is opening, I'll give you an example, easy, when a bar is opened, those have clearly been closed and people are congregating in a bar. The sheriff, if he knows about it and somebody calls him about it, can go take action and make those people disperse and issue tickets for violation of the governor's order.
It's just frustrating, excuse me, it's just frustrating that the folks are calling and they're saying that their loved ones are working in these situations, but how do they make sure that they're protected in these factories where they're too close to each other? And I don't know, the only thing I've heard they're doing is taking the temperature. There may be other things, but I'd like to know, what the plan is. I know we can't go in and tell them what to do. I know that, and they can declare themselves essential services and stay open. But I would like to know that their employees have planned for ensuring that they don't catch the virus from anybody else, because it'll spread all over the facility. That was my only concern.
Right. We may be able to get a report momentarily from the industrial authority. They're online and going to be talking to us about the airport, but could be Stephen Adams could make some comments about what he knows and what they've been doing and what they're finding out. So we can look at that. I wanted to move on and give you a brief financial report. Commissioner Watkins, Chairman Watkins, wanted to not to completely get away from the regular reporting process, and so we have had the finance director, Christy Alucci, send out and email out the financial report for the month of February, as I understand it. So we're running a little bit behind with that. But Christy, if you're available to kind of run through this quickly, and like I say, commissioners, we sent this out to you, and we can do a better job of sending out information by email that you want and that you feel like you need and request. Christy, are you there?
Yes.
Good. Why don't you take us through your report, please, ma'am?
Basically, this report is for February. We haven't closed March, but I will go over, I did run a preliminary one for March, and it's very similar to this report. we are at 84% of revenue collected, which is exactly in line with where we were at this period last year through February. For March, we are at 88%, which is exactly where we were at March for last year. So both of those months now are in line. We should be at about 70% for the month of February. And we do have several line items that are, or several departments that are a little over their 70%, but each one of those are the ones that we've discussed in the past. Board of Commissioners, that's because we've paid our audit fees. The mayor's was due to some contingencies paid in advance. County attorney is a new one that showed up, and that's because outside, we've got some fees and outside counsel that have been paid. Small business is still the Operation Hope, and industrial and urban development is the $350,000 economic development that we pay out earlier in the year. So each one of those is pretty much in line with what we've seen every month. Like I said, I did look forward to March. I just didn't present March because we don't have some fuel posted. And every one that was showing up so far in March without having closed is no new departments. So we won't be expecting anything different next month unless something unexpected hits in the next few days.
Well, thank you for that. And everything is looking pretty solid. I was curious, the two pieces that kind of stand out to me, and I'm curious when you think they'll hit, but I assume that our sales tax is going to take a dip. And I'm also concerned about the hotel motel tax and how that's going to affect the trickle of how we transfer that out.
I did look at both of those, and they're not trending yet because hotel motel is 2 months behind. The tax commissioner collects it, and then we get it the following month. So that's going to take a little while for that one to show up. It wasn't trending anyway specifically. I also did look at the SPLOST. We're actually for the month. Let me find that report. We let me see. We are about 30 for the March revenue. It was about $33,000 more than prior March.
Is it lagging? Is it lagging a month or two, or
it lags a month?
1 month. Okay.
So what we received March is February's, and it was about 30 some odd $1,000 more. Which you think more, that's great, but normally we're expecting or hopeful that it's $100,000, $200,000 more. So where I'm saying it's not behind yet, we probably should have seen a bigger increase than that over the prior year, or would be hopeful that that would be the case. And I would say by next month we might be able to trend that one, and it might be a little bit longer for the hotel motel, but I was keeping an eye on that, and I haven't seen anything specific for those, but we might be able to see those in the next couple months.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, Commissioner Watkins?
Have the outside agencies and hotel motel dependent agencies started reaching out yet?
No.
Okay.
Not to me specifically, and Dr. Moffitt sitting here, and he also responded no. I would imagine that if they were going to do that, they may be waiting until they have their budget hearing and address it at that time.
Okay.
If it is okay with everybody, let me move on. And as we're fixing to go into official committee of the whole business, I want to get the clerk to do a roll call and see who's on here so that we can confirm a quorum and be sure we're ready to go with that. Janice?
Commissioner Tillman,
Is he muted?
Yeah, he might be.
okay, thank you. Commissioner Tillman,
Here.
I'm here.
okay. Commissioner Bibbins, Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Lucas,
Here.
Commissioner Schlesinger,
Here.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Shepard,
Here.
Commissioner Watkins,
Here.
and Commissioner Wynn.
Present and accounted for.
Excellent, thank you. We've got a quorum of nine in attendance. Bivens being the only one that's not with us right now.
Yes, sir.
So the first item is approval of the minutes. The minutes of our March the 24th meeting have been circulated with any changes or corrections that anybody noted. If not, can I get a motion and second to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Wynn and a second by Schlesinger. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, the minutes are approved. Next item on our agenda is an update on our airports. I have asked TBI and the Industrial Authority to kind of team up, and I understand that Blake Roy is on the phone with us. And then if you will permit me, as we go through the report, there are a couple of action items that I would like to take out of order while the TBI folks and the Industrial Authority folks are on the line with us. One concerns the airport beacon. I think that's item G. And then one concerns a grant for runway rehabilitation that we're in a time crunch to approve. So with that, Blake, are you there and ready to proceed?
Yes, sir, I am.
Excellent.
All right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
So yeah, per the mayor and for you guys, I wanted to provide a quick update on what's actually going on at the airport right now. We have many projects in the works, including the two that are on your agenda for today, the airport beacon and the $3 million is being provided by GDOT for a runway rehab and potential taxiway rehab, depending on how the bids fall. The first thing I wanted to, on my list that I have is the aircraft parking that was approved a few weeks ago. So far, we received 17 Delta Connection aircraft. All of those are from Republic Airways and Compass Airlines. They'll be parking here for the next 2 to 3 months, depending on how long this crisis lasts. We hope they'll be back up and flying before then. That's how many we received right now. We have been in talks with Embraer here at the regional airport that they could be bringing in some more. However, at this time, that has not occurred. So 17 is our number as of right now. Contour Airlines is still operating their normal schedule. They haven't cut back any flights. They did talk about it for a while, but recently we had a call with the Department of Transportation, the U.S. Department of Transportation, and they have decided, based on that call and the guidance they were provided as related to the alternate EAS service, they will continue operating. Is there a question?
What sort of passenger load do they have, Blake?
So it's very minimal, 1 to 2 per flight usually. I think last week they had one flight that had 12, but that's the highest numbers we've seen in the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
Go to MaconTV.com.
The next topic I have is the airport beacon, which the mayor mentioned is item G on today's agenda. Our airport beacon at the regional airport has been out of service since last October. We've been having kind of intermittent issues with it over the past few years. We've put quite a bit of money into it trying to fix it. However, due to, this is a picture of it here of kind of what we're looking to install. It's currently on top of one of the Macon Water Authority's water towers, about a half a mile from the airport. And it's an old beacon from the 1970s. And they're phasing those out of service. So it's very hard to find parts and to find people to work on those now. So we're going to install a new beacon. It's an LED type beacon like you see here on this pole. And this is a 55-foot pole and it does tip down. So it's much easier for maintenance purposes. And we'll hope this beacon will last us several more years. So that's on the agenda today for discussion. The next thing is we received several calls related to the COVID-19 crisis as far as the terminal is concerned. Is it safe? Is it clean? What are you going to do in the event that we have, an outbreak in the terminal or someone comes through that's positive? This question has also been raised to us by TSA in case there is an actual confirmed case that comes through the airport. They have asked us, working with TSA, we actually reached out to a few different cleaning services. There's a couple in Atlanta and one in Lawrenceville that they have spoken with that are working with Savannah International Airport as well as Augusta. So in the event that we do have a confirmed case come through the airport, we have a couple cleaning companies that I've spoken with and are on somewhat of a retainer in case we do have to move forward with an emergency cleaning of the terminal. So we're on top of that and ready for that in case that does happen. The next item on the agenda is the runway 1432 rehabilitation and potential taxiway rehabilitation. So this is on the agenda today. Basically, we are receiving through the state legislature and Georgia Department of Transportation is providing approximately $3 million, or they're providing $3 million for a 75-25 split to a project. And for the runway reconstruction, we felt that was a good use of that money. This will be our secondary runway, which is kind of goes from the top left of the screen there to the bottom right, across the middle of the airfield. That runway does not qualify for federal funding until you pretty much have every other piece of pavement on the airport is repaired and in good working order. On the recent Georgia DOT analysis study that was conducted last summer, it turns out that is not a very good, it's not in very good condition. So we felt that's a proper use of this funding is to repair that secondary runway. And through our work with GMC, our local airport contractors, they're actually on site today. They did some pavement cores last week, and they're doing the preliminary survey work on that runway today. In addition to the runway, depending on how the bids fall, we felt that it was prudent to also include a couple of our small taxiways into that project as an alternate bid. So runway 1432 would be the primary bid. Taxiway Delta and Taxiway Charlie from the main ramp and main apron over to runway 23 are included as alternates on that main bid. And that's just in case the bids fall well below 4 million, and we're able to include those as well. The only other situation we have with the runway is that the Georgia Department of Transportation will not participate in the design cost of that runway. They will participate 75% on the construction. However, the remaining 25% and the design cost at 100% will be on local share, will be on the county to provide that. So that is all on the agenda today for your consideration. Is there any questions related to that project?
Yes.
Well, there may be, but let me segue over to Stephen Adams is ready, I think, to pick up and give us more information about the runway rehabilitation project and kind of what we're proposing. Stephen, are you there and ready? And then we'll come back. Commissioner Wynn, I see you want to, yeah. So I'll come back and get you. But Stephen, can I segue over to you at this point, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And first of all, can everybody hear me okay? We're just testing our microphone here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I'm joined here. I got Chairman Robbie Fountain and as well as Vice Chairman Dwight Jones. And if it's okay, I turn it over to Chairman Fountain, who will lead us through our presentation.
Well, wonderful. Thank you, Stephen.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, County Commissioners. I hope everyone's doing well. Yes, just to dive in a little bit with the airport and talk a little bit about the match money. Mr. Mayor, we had talked about the crosswind runway, and I think DOT has offered that 75% match, and we at the authority are committed to the airport, and we're committed to the match money. I think at the end of the day, I think we're looking at about $1.2 million, a little bit north of $1.2 million in match money. Is that correct? $1.25 million, I think is where we are.
Right. Yes, that's my understanding that the match itself, the $3 million, the match, or for the $4 million, the match is 25%. So the match is $1 million. The state's contributing $3 million, and kudos to our local delegation for managing to get this $3 million into the supplemental budget. which is part of our issue because the supplemental budget, the money has to be obligated before June the 30th. Obligated means you've got to have a contract in place. So we're under a real time crunch. Plus the design cost, it's about $220,000, I think, that has to be paid for locally 100%. So yes, our part of this is about $1,250,000.
Yes, sir. And with that being said, we have, the team here at the authority have, along with Kevin Brown, have looked at the numbers, and it looks like the airport fund, the one that is the rental fund that currently houses Robbins North, as far as Embraer and Stevens, that's the account that we hold here at the Industrial Authority. As we run some preliminary numbers, I think the authority can float the $1.25 million in advance. And it looks like that fund, over the course of a couple of years, will be able to pay back the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority to make us whole in this effort.
And this sounds, Robbie, thank you very much, but this sounds a lot like what was presented to us as we were talking about the Dean Baldwin project and letting the airport fund provide some of these improvements to that area of the airfield to be an incentive, not just to Dean Baldwin, but to others. And then the money being advanced by the Industrial Authority to the airport fund and being paid back as the airport fund is able to reimburse the authority.
That's correct.
All right. So same thing. By the way, I cannot see you, Robbie. I can see Stephen. I can hear you, but I can't see you. Does anybody else have the same issue that I do?
No.
Mr. Mayor, he may be on, if you might be on another screen because so many people have joined. I noticed that as well. I couldn't see everybody on the screens.
Okay. Well, I'll try to pull up more pictures. But comments and questions. I know Commissioner Wynn had her hand up first. So Commissioner Wynn.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Blake or Robbie or whoever, or Stephen, I know we're collecting rent for these planes that are being parked at our airport. Is that money going into your airport fund?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And how much, I know that we were told this at the beginning, but how much is it?
We're charging, for the aircraft that are here now, we're charging $960 per aircraft per month.
Okay.
And that's prorated based on, if they leave early, it'll be prorated based on the month.
Okay, and about how many planes do we have out there now?
We have 17 at this time.
Okay, so that money will go into your fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Other questions, comments, or concerns? If not, Robbie, yeah, keep going, and then any other information about this.
Okay, and like I say again, Mr. Mayor, the authority has looked at our finances, and Commissioner Wynn, these are, as you talk to Blake too, that these are different funds too that we have, that the authority has versus what the airport has. And the fund that the Industrial Authority actually has access to, and we keep up with all the rent from Embraer, from Stevens to Robbins North. Those are the fundings that we have through rents, and that's what we're talking about using to reimburse the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority $1.25 million.
That's great.
And Mr. Mayor, going back to the crosswind runway, I know this has been on our radar for a while, and we've talked about it, and through a lot of efforts, our team, Dwight Jones, the mayor, a lot of people came and got those funds appropriated for that runway, crosswind runway, to be resurfaced and redone. Thank you guys for leading that charge. It was kind of unexpected here to get it this soon, to scramble to come up with the match money, but I think our team has put together a great financial plan. Kevin Brown's on the line as well. He can speak to it if he needs to, but we do have the funding set aside in place, and we can move forward with this, Mr. Mayor.
That's fantastic, Robbie. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Other questions or comments? And Dwight, I see you sitting there looking mighty studious.
Trying to keep up appearances, Mayor.
Well, I do think that Dwight is owed a great deal of credit for this, because his trip up there to talk to the folks at the Department of Transportation, as well as talking to members of the House and Senator Kennedy and Senator Lucas as well, going to bat and getting this $3 million put in. And the reason it's so important to do this is because that when we do the extension of the main runway, the secondary runway will be what keeps our airport open while the main runway is under construction. So otherwise we might have to shut down for periods of time, extensive periods of time. And when you've got the sort of operations that demand continuous service into these MRO outfits and so on and so forth, we had to keep the airport open. So by redoing the secondary runway, it will become the primary runway for a period of time. And Contour has confirmed for us that it's only 5,000 feet in length, but that's long enough to safely accommodate a fully loaded Contour flight, so they can keep up their schedule, which I think is of critical importance. So Dwight, thank you very much for going to bat for us, for getting the state to pony up $3 million in the supplemental budget. So now what we've got to do is to act on it, pay this additional match, and thanks to the Industrial Authority for their willingness to front the money and pay themselves back out of future revenues to the airport fund. Anything you wanted to add to that, Dwight?
No, Mayor, other than what you said earlier, which is our local delegation really is the ones that did the heavy lift on them. And so many thanks to them. Mayor, again, I know y'all have a busy agenda, but if you want any of the industrial developments at the airport, I can comment a few minutes about that, but I don't want to impose on your time.
Oh, no. I think we would all be very interested, especially knowing what's going on out there. So take a minute or two and bring us up to speed.
Yes, sir. My pleasure. Well, quickly, and ladies and gentlemen, I apologize that this is not the rosy picture that I've been fortunate to give you the last several years, but it's not horrible at this point. But just kind of making the rounds with our industrial tenants at the airport. Stevens Aviation, if you remember, has a Gulfstream platform. They were in a startup mode when they took occupancy, and so they kind of had a longer length of time before they probably became profitable. They've got some work right now. They are still open, but obviously they are not doing as much work as they were previous to the COVID-19 crisis. In the case of Embraer, Blake's mentioned earlier about our 17 aircraft. We worked really hard 4 or 5 weeks ago with Embraer, hoping we might get as many as 100 or more airline transport aircraft at the airport to generate more fees for the terminal. Unfortunately, as you probably saw some weeks back after their last quarter, Embraer posted around a $280 million loss. And so they have suspended operations, and they, in doing so, have not attracted the volume of airline transport aircraft we hope to get. Talking with Blake and with Doug Fayor, we all believe this far into the crisis, whatever aircraft are going to be grounded, more than likely have, so we don't anticipate getting much more, if any, we already have. I have spoken with Embraer's leadership, and they still are very upbeat. They feel like this is a bump in the road, and they still are excited about their location, so fingers crossed there. In the case of the state and the Robbins North, they're continuing to have their operations and not gotten any negative vibes from their operation. I do have a call later this morning with Dr. Allen just to check on them and see how they're doing. For Dean Baldwin, obviously this was a big hit for them. Most of their business comes from airline transport painting. Ms. Barbara Baldwin, I think y'all remember hopefully meeting her in her other existing facilities. UPS is giving her a lot of business, thankfully, and that's keeping her going. She has pumped the brakes a little bit in that she's still committed to the project, but she's moving forward partially. She wants to defer some of the hangar construction 4 to 6 months. But at this time, if you've been out to Avondale, the site is rough graded, almost finished graded, and we actually have one of the hangars still on site and should begin construction here in the next few months. So again, still committed to the project, but she's moving forward cautiously, and we feel like that's appropriate. Lastly, Project Dragon, you might remember we came to you a few months ago. happy to report that even though they're impacted like everybody in the world is, they are still keeping active touch with us. They're still very much interested in the project, still working forward on it. So we still remain very hopeful that that will come together here in the very near future. And Blake, I don't know that we mentioned it, at Middle Georgia State University at Downtown Airport has suspended the FBO operation, but they are continuing to look at expanding on field, and we're continuing to have discussions with them. Obviously right now it's not a great time, but they have taken possession of their 2 new aircraft for training, and provided, obviously we don't get into a suspended situation here with COVID-19, they should double their student enrollment in the fall is the plan. So Mayor, Commissioners, that's just a quick round the track on the 2 airports from the industrial side.
Great, thank you, Dwight. Commissioners, any questions, comments, or concerns of Robbie or Dwight or Blake Roy? If not, I would like to take out of order the 2 items on our agenda today that pertain to the airport. The first being the beacon, the replacement beacon, and then secondly, this runway extension grant, accepting the grant and agreeing for to pay the match of about $1,250,000 to get the runway rehabilitated. So can I go out of order then without objection? Right. If there are any objections, let me know. Otherwise, I'll ask the clerk to read item G, the caption to item G. Janice?
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter a contract with the Georgia Department of Transportation for the purpose of constructing an airfield beacon at the Middle Georgia Regional Airport to be funded in the amount of $123,493.36 in federal funds and $2,695.57 in state funds and $3,804.08 plus any project overfunds to be paid as a local match from the airport budget interfund local match line item.
Can I get a motion and second?
Second.
Who was that that made the motion?
Jones.
Jones, good. All right, we've got a motion by Jones, second by Wimp. Now further discussion on item G, the airport beacon, using mostly federal money. I think this is one of those 90% federal funds, 5% state funds, and 5% local funds by the time it gets down to us. But the $3,804.08 will be paid out of the airport fund. Questions, comments? If not, then all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the resolution is approved. Without objection, let me go on and take up item K. Item K is the runway rehabilitation so that we can accept this $3 million grant from the state and match it with $1,220,802.76. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to accept state funding assistance from the Georgia Department of Transportation in the amount of $3 million for the purpose of improving and rehabilitating the 1432 runway at Middle Georgia Regional Airport with a local match in the amount of $1 million plus payment of design cost in the amount of $220,802.76 to be paid from the airport funds held in trust by the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority.
Can I get a motion and second on that resolution?
I move to accept.
Second.
Got a motion by Wynn, second by Schlesinger. Further comments, discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Who's that?
This is Kevin Brown. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, Kevin.
Just one quick note, and I know we talked about it, but the resolution does not mention that the authority will be loaning the airport fund those monies.
do we need to just make note of that, or do we just note it from the minutes?
County attorney says we can just note that from the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We'll instruct the clerk to be sure and put it in the minutes that the industrial authority is willing to lend the airport fund the additional money it might need to make the payments initially, and then be reimbursed from future revenues to the airport fund from rental fees received.
Can we
that
include
was a good point. Good point, Kevin. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Mr. Mayor, that's an important item. Could we just include that?
With consent, Mayor, I can redo the resolution subject to that.
I think it needs to say that because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with, I agree with Commissioner Lucas. I think it needs to be reworded.
But I'm in favor of it, but I just think that part needs to be in there.
Then I think we can leave that up to the attorneys to incorporate into it the fact that the industrial authority is willing to lend the money to the airport fund to make the payment initially, and then be reimbursed from future revenues to the airport fund as they become available.
Okay, yeah, that is kind of important. Do you need a motion?
Yes, we'll do that. And Commissioner Lucas, I assume you want to make that motion to incorporate that language into the resolution. Is there a second to that? Yeah, I'll come to you. Let me get a second. Who was my second? By when? Okay, now Commissioner Watkins.
Yeah, so just because I'm curious, the loan is interest free or?
Yeah, we'll just assume it's interest free because these are our buddies that are joined at the hip with us, right, Robbie?
That's right. That's correct.
Kevin, do you want to speak to that?
We will. So unfortunately, the authority does not have enough liquid funds on hand to be able to fund the loan and do the Dean Baldwin loan. So there will be some interest incurred, but those interests will be at the authority's reduced rates, which we have with our line of credit. So they'll be passed through at the actual cost of funds, no additional funds added to that.
That didn't sound friendly, Mr. Mayor.
Well, you're right, and that's why discussions are always good. So we will have some interest on the funds that are borrowed by the line of credit by the industrial authority. Is that right?
The mayor gets so excited sometimes.
I do. I mean, this is something we've all been working on so long, but this is good discussion to have. So
we want to be excited too.
doing it right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So got a motion by Lucas to amend this by putting that language in, and the second by Wynn. Further discussion on the amendment to indicate that the industrial authority is advancing the money, and to the extent they incur interest costs, they'll include that in their reimbursement from future revenues to the airport fund.
Now,
Watkins.
Now that I've started down the rabbit hole, how much are we? I know you're saying this would cover the overages. If in fact, how much are we expecting the overages to be? So the amount that we would.
We're not anticipating overages. In fact, what the engineers are talking, GMC is talking about, is adding the taxiway projects as add-offs. So if the total comes in above $4 million, we strike them back out and don't do them and try to do them.
And I used the wrong phrase. I guess I was referring to just thinking this is gonna exceed the amount that's in the current airport fund.
Currently, I understand it does. That the industrial authority is not holding enough money in trust down there from the airport fund to cover all these costs.
And is that the 200,000 number that I'm looking at, or are we anticipating that number to be different?
No, the $220,000 I think is engineering cost, because it was $220,802.76. So I think that's a firm bid from GMC.
Right. So the amount that we're thinking would need to be involved in this loan, $50,000, less, more.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. Say again.
The loan, the the loan from the industrial authority that we're discussing on adding on as an amendment, how much are you anticipating that to be by dollar amount?
Robbie, Dwight, Stephen?
That's a million. That should be $1.25 million. That's what it'd be, Commissioner Watkins. We're looking at this whole match money from the authority will be about $1.25 million. $1 million goes toward the match money to the state GDOT grant. The rest of it will go just for design work. So that's the money that the authority will be lending that airport fund to help facilitate.
The entire amount. It's not a portion of it. It's the entire amount.
The entire amount. That's correct.
Oh, okay. All right. I misunderstood that earlier.
Commissioner Watkins, this is Kevin. You remember that the fund is already committed to fund the Dean Baldwin improvements, and that puts us at a little over $1 million deficit just to do that. So we're already at a deficit. We'll have to borrow that, but the goal is to minimize borrowing. So as soon as new revenues come in, we'll offset that borrowing as quickly as we can.
Okay, I think I get it now.
Is there further discussion about the amendment? Hearing none, then all in favor of the amendment to clarify the financial arrangements between the industrial authority lending the money to the airport fund and being reimbursed from the airport fund with future revenues. Further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is approved. Now we'll go to the main motion as amended. I'm not sure that I did have a
motion and a second. Yes, sir.
So is there further discussion on the main motion as amended? Good. Then all in favor of the main motion as amended signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the resolution as amended is approved. Anything further for Blake Roy or for Robbie or Stephen Adams or Dwight Jones? Because they may want to stay on, or they may have had all the fun they wanted to have.
You're going to have Stephen to speak about the companies and their procedures as far as the employees during this COVID-19 situation.
Right, Stephen, that would be good. Has Elise been out with existing industries and touching base with them, and kind of what are you hearing back as far as the COVID-19 and what our local industries are doing in that regard, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Happy to answer that question. That we've really are reminded of our international presence during this pandemic that we're going through right now. We interact with multinational companies that are doing business all around the world and have been impacted by this significantly. We're very fortunate, and we have been in close contact. One of the best and the largest value that we've been providing to our industries right now is the flow of information from our federal, state, and local partners. As these new guidelines and protocols become available to us, we're making sure they're getting to them so that they can continue to provide the products and services that we all need during this time. And so I can assure you that they are taking those protocols and guidelines very seriously. The well-being and safety of their employees is of the utmost importance, and they are taking every precaution necessary. We know that they are taking those guidelines and going above and beyond what is being asked of them. And so we are in daily contact with all of our industries. And I'm happy to report, too, that while prospecting and marketing has slowed a little bit, there are still projects in the pipeline that are still looking within all of our targeted industries. And so we expect that as some of these guidelines become lifted, we will be able to get back to business as usual. But we are continuing to do a lot of our prospecting and marketing in this new environment and doing a lot of meetings just like this. I'm happy to answer any questions about specifics. Like I said, every industry is being impacted a little bit differently. With the airline industry, as Dwight Jones alluded to, has obviously been significantly impacted by the lack of travel. But we're seeing a lot of our manufacturers and logistics operations are still trying to get those products so that when you go to the grocery store, those products are there. We've also seen a lot of our industry partners from Geico and Irving and and Mr. Chips and Amazon making donations to our local food banks and some of the efforts to get food and supplies out to those that can't get it. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but just like everything, and it's changing, evolving on a daily basis too. So,
well, Mayor, if I may, Commissioner Lucas, if I may add, we have no control over this, Mayor and Commissioners, but I have it on pretty good authority late last night that there's an expectation that the P3 loans that a lot of businesses are obviously expecting and having to rely on, the original tranche of funding they expect to run out either tomorrow or Thursday.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And right, and so my understanding is Congress is still negotiating additional tranches, but I think that's going to drive a lot of the next few weeks, depending on folks that are not going to get that funding on the first tranche. I think that's our biggest concern right now.
Okay, so that additional monies would be used for those companies that do find themselves in a situation where they have to shut down. Is that?
Yes, ma'am. On the payroll protection plan loans, and Kevin, you probably could speak to this better than everybody, but they obviously 75% of that for it to be forgiven is intended to be spent on your payroll burden in these companies. And so, you know, again, I think we just all need to hope and pray Congress gets the second tranche out pretty quick, because I don't know what the numbers are on the companies that have applied. I think they went through this funds a lot quicker than what they anticipated.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just worried because the numbers that we have been getting from the different departments are not true numbers, because there's not enough testing going on for us to have real accurate numbers. And I'm just afraid that some of these companies, we're going to have a real serious situation, and you know, everybody they're just strapped, all these workers. And so that's my real concern.
Well, this is a very difficult time, as you point out,
Yeah.
Commissioner Lucas, for all of us. So we share your concern for workers who are involved necessarily in critical infrastructure and turning out products that we need just to kind of keep going. So yeah, and that's a lot of different employers. So we'll continue to monitor this and see what we can do on the local level. But that may be a pretty good segue then to move into the next items on our agenda. Can I do that? I think Jack Cote has called in. Jack, if you're there, are you going to help us with some of the information about the SWIFT, the Certain and Fast Supervision Grant? Are you there, Jack Cote?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you very well. Good. I'm delighted. So the next 5 resolutions on our actually 6. The next 6 resolutions are all dealing with the SWIFT, Certain, and Fast Supervision Grant. So, Jack, if you will, tell us a little bit about the purpose of the grant and then what these resolutions are for.
Yes, sir. If I may, the purpose of the grant, the SWIFT, Certain, and Fair, is a probation grant. And what we nationwide has typically been used with drug courts. The grant is through the Bureau of Justice Assistance Program, and we are their first domestic violence awardee for this grant. And so they're looking at us pretty closely here. The resolutions that you have before you today are basically some house cleaning issues. The judges, Judge Monroe and Judge Hanson, and they wanted to use money to help with counseling and for the defendants, because typically in a normal situation, just day to day, one of the main excuses that we have with defendants on probation for family violence, the state does require that they attend the family violence intervention program unless otherwise ordered by the court. And that's typically a burden on the defendant. Most you find a lot of them unemployed. and they come back and they're not able to pay, they're not able to go, and technically they've no pay, no stay, and they fell out. So what we're hoping to use and to try to see what we can do is use this grant money. Number one thing is the defendant will get a paid assessment, which is already in the works. And what that does is the clinician identifies a little bit more closely on each defendant what the issues may be, and therefore will refer them to what we feel would be a better program or more close-knit program to their needs, rather than the one shoe fits all that the state requires. And that's something that we are hoping to take a look at after it's all said and done to see how it pans out. What we've done back in November, we put out the RFQs to all the counseling programs in the with the Family Violence Intervention Program, MRT, and individual counseling programs to put in their applications if they chose to accept the limited money that we have to pay for it. And they did so, and we have gone through the procurement process, and we're here with that as well, with those three particular programs or facilities. We also have on board for 2 defense counsels as well for the defendants as well. When they come through court, they are represented, and at no cost to them. The grant pays for the defense attorneys, because that's one of the 4 stakeholders with this grant, and it is a defense attorney. So
good.
Today
Jack,
is going to be for
Jack. Let me do this. Let me get the clerk to read the caption of the first of these resolutions, and then you can talk specifically about it for us and see if there are any questions about it from the commissioners. So, Janice, would you read the caption to A?
Yes, sir.
Item A.
A resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with the Southern Center for Choice Theory, LLC, to provide counseling sessions to participate on swift, certain, and fair domestic violence probation who have been evaluated for placement in the Family Violence Intervention Program with funds from the Swift, Certain, and Fair Supervision Grant.
Okay, that is the first resolution. Can I get a motion in second? And then we'll have additional discussion.
No move.
Second.
Motion by Schlesinger, second by Watkins. So additional discussion then. Jack, this is the Southern Center for Choice Theory, LLC, to provide counseling sessions.
Yes, that's correct. And they'll be in there for 2 of them, I believe. This is for the Family Violence Intervention Program. They are state certified. They are the one Family Violence Intervention Program that put in the RFQ for this grant.
All right. And is there a dollar limitation? I'm looking at the resolution, and it looks like the contractor receives $10 per session, not to exceed $240 per participant. Is that right?
Yes, and that's the money that comes out of the grant. Now, this is the one that's a matching one. This is the one where the defendant typically pays each week. It's a 27-week one. So therefore, with the limited funds, we are matching this, and the defendant will pay $10 on this one if the clinician feels that this is the one that they need.
Okay. Questions or comments or concerns?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem, that's you, I think. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. A couple of questions. Is it Jack? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Couple of questions. Jack, how does that work versus you say the grant go toward public defender versus a regular defense attorney? How is it determined, or is it all defense attorneys? Because Macon-Bibb has its own public defender's office that we help fund. So the question is, how does that work, public defender versus a regular attorney? And the counseling session that you speak about, is that in advance of the trial or going before the judge, or is that in the guilty phase if someone is found guilty, and then the grant kicks in to pay for that counseling service. And the third is the amount of money that you're talking about a defendant pays through probation. You know, I don't understand what you're saying as far as paying for that versus, and how does that correlate with counseling service? Because every defendant that sees a probation officer has to pay a certain amount of money. I don't know what the money goes toward, and maybe you can explain it. And I know I've asked three things, and I can repeat something if you don't understand or is clear.
Yes, sir. I think I've got them. So if I miss it, please remind me. But first of all, that's all post-adjudication. So the defendants usually go through their normal course of the hearings, and these are defendants who either are pled guilty or found guilty. Okay, so once this has gone through, then they are given some information on to go see a clinician. The clinician does the assessment, and then they come back to court for what we call a status hearing. And whatever the findings are on that, the court makes it they modify it to as a condition of that defendant's probation. Typically, as far as the defense attorneys, with the grants, with all SCF grants, one of the stakeholders are going to be a defense attorney. And what this is we did the RFQs on that, which will be coming up later, and this was put out there. And we have so much money that we're able to put in for that as well to pay for a defense attorney. And these are the people that have responded and were accepted. They went through the procurement process. As far as the money goes for the counseling, we're trying to help the defendant. We're trying to absorb the cost, or at least help them for those that are a little bit higher in a normal situation, and at least match it, which is the case with the FIP. Because typically if a defendant goes through FIP and they pay for their all 27 weeks and an individual assessment, they would be paying close to $800 in addition to any fines or fees they may have with the court. So this is where we're trying to help them out and eliminate that for them. Did I get all of them, I think, Mr. Tillman?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The other one was public defender. I think when you said, you still didn't answer the question as far as how do they qualify, because under the a person qualifies for a public defender, I believe, if he or she makes under $1,100 a month or something like that. So if somebody is not using our public defenders, then you're still saying that the money can still help with the counselor of a regular defense attorney?
I can chime in here just a little bit. In this,
thank you, Michelle.
Commissioner Tillman, good morning. This is a little bit of my own personal experience. I served in this capacity for a DUI court as staff attorney under something very similar in Gwinnett County. So the two attorneys that are working with this program are specifically assigned to just this program. It's independent of a public defender. These are our participants who have already gone through the court process and been sentenced or on probation. So the two attorneys that are going to be under contract for this treatment program are solely for that purpose. Those two attorneys will participate in staff meetings. They'll participate in the treatment process. And their role is to provide assistance for the probationer if there becomes a time in the future where they might be facing like a revocation because of a new violation, or for not complying with whatever term of their sentence condition might be, at issue. So their role is to really be on the backside of this process, but they're also part of the treatment team. So it's a little different than just serving public defense.
So nobody's going to come back later and say, now we need funding to hire a person just to deal with this particular grant issue. It's already going to go toward attorneys that you all or the judges will already have assigned? So
Well, and
nobody's gonna come back in a few months and say, now we need to hire a Pacific attorney just to deal with this issue.
this is all grant funded at this point. And it is specifically for this treatment program.
And I think the county attorney had an additional comment.
Yeah, I have a comment that Michelle, I think, hit on it, but the funding from this, Michelle, is through grants, correct?
Yes.
And anybody in this program post plea or conviction or whatever on probation would be covered in terms of legal representation by that grant money. I think that was the question from Commissioner Tillman. Is that correct? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
The total grant.
Mayor Pro Tem, anything further from you?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Schlesinger, did I have you next, sir?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got a question or comment or concern about item A?
Look, I wanted to ask what the total grant was.
Jack, can you give us that?
Yes, sir. The total grant was $595,000. And of course, that's spread out, between like employee cost matches and stuff like that. We have, right now, we're hoping that once me and Mrs. Sharita Jones get together in about at the 6-month mark of starting it, we're gonna, right now we have about $110,000 that we can pay for the counseling. So.
All right.
So final question, Mr. Mayor.
All right, well, hold on just a second, Mayor Pro Tem. My recollection is that Judge Hanson came before us a month or two ago, and we approved receiving the grant and the match, some of which was in kind and some of which, if I recall correctly, was actual financial match. We've already approved that. So what we're talking about now are contracts to implement the grant. This one with the Southern Center for Choice Therapy, LLC, but there'll be others, including the attorneys that have agreed to work for the amount of money that's available as we go through these. But other questions, comments, or concerns?
Yeah. And I think this is a good thing. And I think, most folks will support it, but we're going to get questions from defendants. And so how does one qualify, and who makes the determination if somebody is qualified to receive the grant funding or the counseling services to determine why a person committed a family violence?
That's a good question. Jack, can you help us with that? I mean, what the criteria are for selecting the participants in this program?
Yes, well, the grant is targeted toward any of the domestic violence cases, misdemeanor cases coming through the state court of Bibb County. And then they go through the process. Some of them go through there and they're explained by the prosecutors of what the grant is about. And some of them can elect not to go through it and just be put on traditional probation, or some of them it just may be severe enough to where it's just going to be straight jail time. So it's going to be usually the normal process. And then if they decide to plead guilty or found guilty, then the judge, and they all are in agreement prior to the guilty verdict or guilty plea, they'll go through SCF court.
Further questions, comments, or concerns?
I have one small question, because the amount of money in this first one we're voting on, it doesn't have an amount. The other two have like 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. Is there not an amount associated with this first resolution?
Jack, can you help us with that? Is there a total allocated for the Southern Center other than just the per person fee?
There's a total amount to be spread out between all of them. Right now, we're looking at 110,000 is what I know we have available. It's all driven by the clinician and their assessment. So you may have, it was hard for us, and we had to get with Chauncey and all. We had to make sure that we couldn't set a certain amount, because if, like for Southern Center here, because if the clinician said that he felt that more were like less offensive and they could do individual counseling, some may be here, and we wouldn't know what the exact numbers would be.
So the total is 110,000 for all of this. So if we can't exceed that, we can't exceed that amount for the total.
Michelle, Mr. Mayor.
I can let Michelle answer that when she's waving her hand.
So if you look at the terms of the contract, we addressed that in the compensation portion. The language that was included in there is that invoices have to be submitted, and it's basically a first come, first serve type process. So the providers will have that information. You are correct. The defense attorneys were a little different. We were able to set just a finite amount of what they would be paid through the grant. However, for the providers, it's a case by case basis because that determination is based on a number of factors. It's based on what the clinician determines the treatment approach to be for that individual. There could also be situations where the individual doesn't complete their counseling sessions. And if so, they'll have to go back to the treatment team to reassess what the next step might be. For individual counseling sessions, you'll see that coming up. It's based on how many number of sessions they'll attend. But basically, the providers are on notice that they need to put their invoices in as quickly and promptly as possible. And when the funds are gone, the funds are gone.
Okay.
Other questions, comments, or concern? If not, I've got a motion and second by Schlesinger and Watkins. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is approved. That'll take us to item B, and I'll ask the clerk to read that one by caption.
A resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with Laurie M. Dodson, attorney at law, LLC, to provide criminal legal representation to participants on swift, certain, fair domestic violence probation with funds from the Swift, Certain, and Fair Supervision Grant not to exceed a total amount of $5,000.
Can I get a motion and second for the resolution?
So moved.
Got Schlesinger and Watkins again. Further discussion. Now, this appears to be one of the first professional services contracts with an individual attorney to provide counseling. Defense services, provide criminal legal representation during this phase of the process. Jack, anything you want to add to this, please, sir?
No, so this is Ms. Dotson is one of the two that you'll be seeing. So
okay.
I'm like just how I'm just curious, how does it, how does somebody already applying for it in advance of it being brought before the commission? And how is the word getting out? Because, do the courts have its own PR people? Because our PR people hadn't sent us anything on it. And so how did it get out? How do you promote it? And then, somebody's already applied for it and it just hadn't been approved. And so, the thing about funding and a grant that's $500,000 is always a concern to me of there are going to be certain folks that know about it and can benefit from it, when ultimately it's about helping the defendant that can't afford services and or an attorney, et cetera, et cetera. So, I support it, but that's just always, curious to me how stuff like that, happens. And we approve it, we support it, but, that's just interesting. I'm asking a rhetorical question, making a comment on it, but I support it.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it does. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. But I think if I go back, this was something that we voted to accept the grant, and then it went through the procurement process. I think I heard Jack say that they worked with Chauncey, so you would have had notices and advertisements gone out. It would have been posted, and how people find out about it and look and then respond. I'm sorry, we don't have anybody from procurement, unless maybe Michelle has some knowledge or information of how that went, or Dr. Moffitt. Anybody that have any knowledge about how the procurement process went and who applied and how they were selected? Jack?
Mr. Mayor, you hit it right on the head. We just went through the county procurement process, which the BJA requires us to do. And we put it out there for the time that they allot on normal bids like that. And we came to that with these two. That's what we're bringing before you today.
And it's my understanding too, Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you say that the judge actually wanted to use every person who applied and kind of accommodated that when he selected the participants for this first round?
Now, with the attorneys, there were minimum years of service, but on the counseling programs, he did try to keep within the framework of trying to, anybody that applied, he wanted to try to use them. And we had 3 apply for the 3 apply and for the different services, which are individual counseling, the family violence intervention program, and MRT.
And then just one other comment, if I may. The participants in this type of treatment program would have been represented on the front side by an attorney, either private or public appointed. And they would have negotiated the ability to participate in this treatment program. Usually it's kind of for a reduced sentence. I'm not sure what the terms of this treatment program be. Sometimes it's even a dismissal of the charges if they successfully complete the, which is why it's so important to have staff counsel be a part of something like this to make sure on the backside that those things are still in place. And it's usually not income based when you're talking about a treatment program. These services are available for everybody who is a probationer in the treatment program, not income based at all.
Correct. And you're right. They are represented when they come for their initial court hearing and sentencing by the attorneys there. And that is negotiated at that time. And they are fully aware of what the program is. And there is a sanction and incentive matrix. So if they comply, there are incentives. There could be reduced fines or fees at the end of this. If there's consecutive sentences, the judge can waive that following sentence if they've been compliant. And if they violate, there are minimum sanctions that are in place. There's guaranteed, it could be range from something that's increased reporting to minimum jail time if they go before the judge.
Okay, is there further discussion on the resolution to retain the professional services of Lori M. Dodson, attorney at law LLC, for legal representation of participants in this domestic violence program? Any further questions, comments, or concern? If not, I got a motion and second. All in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Mr. Mayor, going forward, I know we're done with this, but I would just think that going forward, although it showed the defense attorney's name, because the court proceedings are public record, and I don't know if the attorney can speak to this, but shouldn't the defendant's name also be listed as a person that's going to be receiving the funds as well?
Well, I don't know that we know the defendants that are going to be opting into this, be selected for it and participate.
Well, we have to know the defendants because the attorney has applied for the funding to defend or to get somebody counseling. So we do know the defendants, and you know, I'll reach out to Judge Hanson, but because there's other questions and concerns that I have to make sure that the process gets worked. But I'll reach out to Judge Hanson.
All right. Very good. Well, the ayes have it and the resolution is approved. That takes us now to item C. And I'll ask the clerk to read item C by caption.
A resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with law offices of Amanda R. Richardson, RRC, to provide criminal legal representation to participants on swift, certain, and fair domestic violence probation with funds from swift, certain, and fair supervision grant not to exceed a total amount of $5,000.
Can I get a motion and second on the resolution?
So moved.
Got a motion by Schlesinger, second by Allen. Further discussion now. This apparently is just the second of two the resolutions to retain the services of a defense counsel for participants in this program. Further questions?
Yeah. My question is about, you have any idea, Jack, how many people could be defended with this amount of money?
Not many.
Well, yes.
Obviously not a lot.
Well, yes, ma'am. And what it is that's the amount that we had put in there. We're hoping for more as we see that we're saving money that we can, but you know, everybody's going to be represented, and the attorneys are aware of the amount, and they realize if they go over, that's it. You know, that's what they're going to get. But we'll have the representation. Each defendant will through the attorneys.
Okay, the only thing, it can't be everybody. Everybody who comes through, $5,000 is not going to cover a whole. This was why I asked a while back if the chair of public safety could take an in-depth look at a lot of these programs, because you know, the more we look at this, the more questions that we have, and maybe we just need to get a clear understanding of this kind of program, how it works, how people get into it, how you choose people to defend folks, all of those kinds of things. And I think the chair of public safety agreed to do that at some point in time. But that was just my main thing, that it doesn't look like that's gonna cover a whole lot of people.
Well, I share your concerns, Commissioner Lucas, and I do think that if this is one of the first occasions on which this grant is implemented, we're all kind of shooting in the dark, and it may need some refinement. So yeah, to follow up on it and to see what sort of experience we have, I think is a good advice for us, and I support you 100% in that. Is there further discussion on the resolution to retain the services of Amanda Richardson as a criminal legal representation for participants in this program? Further discussion? If not, got a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the resolution is approved. That takes us now to item D, which is some additional services, and I'll ask the clerk to read item D by caption.
A resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with the Southern Center for Choice Therapy, LLC, to provide individual counseling services to participants of swift, certain, and fair domestic violence probation with funds from the swift, certain, and fair supervisory grant.
How is this different from A, Jack? Let me figure that, because A was a resolution to provide professional services with Southern Center for Choice Therapy for counseling services, and so is this. What's the difference between A and D?
That's a good question, Mr. Mayor. What it is, there's three types of counseling. One was an individual counseling that we hope to put like people of the lesser violent offenses, like sibling, stuff like that, parent, child, go through some individual counseling. Southern Center is one of the few agencies that has several certifications, and with FIP being one of them with the state, they also have people on staff to do individual counseling as well, and they applied for this one as well.
Okay, so one's group therapy and the other one is individual therapy.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, I got it. Can I get a motion and second on item D?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Schlesinger, second by Allen. Is there further discussion? Well, hearing none, all in favor of the resolution to provide Southern Center for Choice Therapy, LLC, for additional services, either group or individual, whichever one, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the resolution is approved. That takes us to number 5, which is item E, and that's a companion to these other 4 thus far. And I'll ask the clerk to read item E by caption.
A resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with the Step After Evidence-Based Programming, LLC, to provide counseling services to participants on swift, certain, and fair domestic violence probation who have been evaluated for placement in moral okay. You had trouble with it, I am too.
Recognition.
Recognition, I'll go with that.
Jack may be
Therapy with funds from the Swift, Certain, and Fair Supervision Grant.
All right, Jack, what is moral recognition therapy?
Yeah, yeah, that is one that you would see a lot through the superior courts when they're daily report centers, but they also have, I've got it here, they've come out with a recent DV model. There's one person in the area that teaches it. It's Latrell Mims, who's a former Superior Court probation officer. She's very good. In fact, she's already doing some stuff with some Superior Court accountability. And this is a different type of program that does behavior modification, and they go and they actually have a workbook they have to work in as well. And they have to report homework back as well. And
right. And how close did we get, Jack, to pronouncing it right? Is it moral recognition?
yes, sir, it is. And when I did everything, I spelled it the same way y'all were thinking until I actually looked at it. But yeah, that is spelled correctly in there. So.
That was very good. Can I get a motion in second? On,
So moved.
Allen and Schlesinger, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Motion in second to retain the services of the step after evidence-based programming LLC to provide this moral recognition therapy service in connection with the domestic violence program. Further questions, comments, or concerns? If not, got a motion in second. All in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it and the resolution is approved. That takes us to one for some additional services, item F in this same program, and I'll ask the clerk to read item F by caption.
A resolution to authorize the mayor to execute a professional services agreement with S&K Professionals Limited Liability Company to provide individual counseling services to participants on swift, certain, and fair domestic violence probation with funds from the Swift, Certain, and Fair Supervision Grant.
Okay. Can I get a motion and second on this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Schlesinger, second by Allen, I believe. Further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to ask the same question you asked a while ago. How's this different from number one? It says individual counseling. Oh, Jack, could you answer that?
Yes, ma'am. We actually have two out of the three that applied. Two are licensed to do individual counseling. These two applied for the individual counseling. And again, that runs along the lines of what Judge Hanson was wanting to do. If they applied for it, he wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to get in with that particular counseling plan. S&K is one of the two individual counselors. Southern Choice is the second. And of course, Southern Choice also has people on staff to do the other counseling program, which is FFIP. But they were the only FFIP provider to apply for it.
So this is just another option of counseling for individuals.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And it may be a good thing to have more than one provider so you can compare and contrast the success rate.
That's exactly what we'll be doing.
Good. Other questions, comments, or concerns about item F? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution to hire S&K for this domestic violence program signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it and the resolution is approved. We've already done item G earlier. That was the airport beacon. That takes us to item H, which is quit claiming 0.0000622 acres. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a quit claim deed for the sale of real property consisting of 0.000622 acres located at 1023 1-1055 Riverside Drive to Causey Riverside Properties LLC for the fair market value of $300.
I know a little bit about this. I was contacted by the owner of the property to say that they have a pending sale. This is the building on Riverside Drive, just north of Spring Street. It used to be an old Georgia Power facility or a trolley barn or something to that effect. It's just north of Grove Restaurant, if that helps you. And in the process of trying to get all of the deeds and everything, they found out that a facade was added to the front of the building in the 1950s or the 1960s to modernize its appearance. And the facade sticks out 4 inches and into the right of way of the little side street, Jones Alley, by this 4 inches. So it was noted as being an encroachment into a public right of way, and that was about to derail the whole sale of the whole building. So the owners have petitioned for a quit claim deed to clear up the encroachment. So we're selling them 4 inches, well, 6 inches. We're selling them a strip 6 inches wide to be sure they've got enough to clear the entire addition for the 25 feet back, so it'll be an even property line. So they've agreed to pay $300. Joel or Michelle or Duke, anything you want to add to my feeble explanation?
No, it'll clear title, and the total amount they need in this encroaching is 27 square feet. So it's about, just when they put the facade up, it just cut 4 inches into our right of way. So
it's about $1 a square foot. I mean, I don't have a problem with this. I moved to approve, but I just wondered where that figure of money came from.
it came, Joel, do you know? It came from the tax assessor, I think.
It came from the fair market value from the tax assessor's office, plus
Yeah.
the time our office put in this for putting everything together.
Right.
I think we should hold out for 500, but I'll go ahead.
All right. Well, I hope that won't be a motion to amend, because
No, just kidding.
I want to get this deal done. I got a motion by Wynn. Is there a second?
Second, Jones.
Good. Got a second by Jones. I'm excited about the project, and I hope that this clears the way for it. Is there further discussion then on the resolution to clear up this encroachment? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The resolution is approved. And next, Commissioner Watkins has submitted a resolution to put a plaque in a park for Lamar Geddes and his association with the Boys Club that was previously in the park before we acquired the property, demolished the Boys Club and turned it into Pinnacle Park. Commissioner Watkins, are you still there with us?
Yes, sir, I am. And
would you like to talk about your resolution, sir?
Sure. Mr. Lamar Geddes, leading member in our community, passed away, I think, almost a little bit over a year ago. During my time of coming up, and I think for many years, 15 years actually, Mr. Geddes was the director of the Boys and Girls Club that was located at the Pinnacle Park site now. After he left the Boys and Girls Club, he continued to serve the community as the executive director of the Crisis Line, which dealt with domestic violence and issues of that. And he also served with me as the chair of the Workforce Investment Board early on in our tenure. Like I say, he dedicated his life to improving Macon. He recently passed away, and just thought it would be fitting in that part to do something to recognize him in that community where he gave so much of his time. We went through all the procedures with the alumni of the Boys and Girls Association. He's actually inducted into the National Hall of Fame for Boys and Girls Club this past year. His family, as well as some of the members or students who served at that time, will all kind of signed the petition and worked on this. It's a shame we're not able to do something
bit more grandiose, but hopefully after the COVID is over, we'll be able to do those things.
Good. I'm in favor of this. I knew Lamar Geddes and I did not know of his association with the Boys Club, but I think that's a great reason and segue to put a plaque. The only thing I would ask is, Commissioner Watkins, will you kind of help us come up with the language that you want, you and the family come up with the language that we want for this plaque, and we'll figure out kind of whether it's a plaque or a monument or what to put this language on to get something appropriate. So will you help us with that, Commissioner Watkins?
Yes, sir. That was great.
Okay. Then can I get a
So
motion?
moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Got Allen is a motion and a second by Schlesinger. Further questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Just out of curiosity, what do the plaques and monuments run about the same cost, and what would that cost be? I know we've put out plaques.
No, I think there are plaques, and then there are plaques, and then there are monuments, and
Yeah.
I think you could have an unlimited budget. So you raise a good point.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Watkins, any idea as to cost?
Yeah. And still some ongoing conversation, because like I say, it's my understanding that the Alumni Association of the Association of Boys and Girls Club was also interested in how they could contribute to such a thing. But it's a matter of us figuring out like what type of monument or plaque and I anticipate that it'd be nominal to the county, that you do have some outside agencies that are interested in contributing as well.
Would you be interested? Would you be interested in an amendment to say cost to the county not to exceed $500?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Can we do that? I'll make that
Yeah.
amendment.
That would be a friendly amendment. Commissioner Watkins is agreeing to amount not to exceed $500, and also that he'll kind of help work with the family to get the appropriate wording. Any other questions, comments, or concerns about the resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the resolution is approved. Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. Next, we've got a Board of Elections supplemental appropriation, and I don't know who is on here to talk to us about that. Dr. Moffitt, are you okay? Dr. Moffitt, unmute yourself and tell us about the resolution and how we came to this supplemental appropriation.
All right, this is one of those supplements that we knew were coming with the changes at the state level. Fortunately, we've been kind of lucky that they postponed 2 elections and trying to give us time to get it, but at this time, we can't delay this any further. In speaking with the Director of the Board of Elections, just give you some background. We have approximately 110,000 registered voters, 31 polling locations. The new requirements is costing them to have equipment and some new handling procedures. This supplemental will cover 43. The name of it is Easy Cart, 4,000 security carts. Those are the big containers that the ballots will go into. 70 precinct ballot transport bags, because the handlers have to secure the ballots. They can't hold them by hand, from what I understand. They have to put them in these specialized bags to do that. And additional 140 global industrial hand carts to carry them. Again, all in all, it's just a lot of new equipment that's needed, because each voting area will have 3 pieces of equipment. Then once the person uses the equipment, the ballot is then printed out physically, and then it's taken over to another area where it is scanned in and actually counted. So again, new procedures, new policies. This supplemental is for $377,000. Again, these are new mandates down from the state. They're required to get the election going. One note in conference with the county attorney, because of the timing of the election, I would like to deem this an emergency and suspend the regular procurement procedures. The Board of Election has the vendor information to do the requisition. So in order to get the equipment ordered, delivered, set up, tested, and at the same time with the Board of Election doing the increased balloting, I think that we need to give them time to kind of work this into the process for the June 9th election. So I'm asking or notifying you that county attorney has said that we well within our rights to deem this an emergency procurement to get it done by June 9th.
All right, we got probably several different questions. Commissioner Wynn, let me go to you. Hold on, let me be sure that I've got enough to go on. Is there a motion and second to discuss this supplemental appropriation?
So moved, first of all.
Got a motion by Wynn and second by Schlesinger so Commissioner Wynn, you had the first question, I think.
So much for this not costing our counties and cities anything, but I understand, and when we do this as an emergency thing, I understand that these machines and this paper is this very special kind of paper and stuff. So you really have to buy it from from where they're saying you have to buy it. So we don't really have an option of going out and getting bids on it anyway. Is that correct?
Right. That is my understanding. That I'll let Dr. Moffitt speak to this and all the county attorneys. So we may be tying on to a state contract as well, because it's
these are special.
That's what I understood, because I've talked to them about it, and it's special equipment coming from a company out in Denver, I think, Colorado, and then the special paper and all this stuff. So we probably have to buy it from the same place.
That's correct.
Some of it would be sole source, but the ones that we might get questioned about, did we bid it out? I just want to go ahead and get this done.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner Watkins,
I'm comfortable with. I get it. We got mandated items that we must buy, and I know it's still early in the process. But you mentioned June 9th. When we get a chance, could you talk to me a little bit about our process going forward? I know largely they relied on volunteers. I saw like the Wisconsin primaries where they ended up having a lot of polling places that weren't able to be opened. Like, I think I saw like Milwaukee, they went from, instead of having 40 polling places, they had 5. I don't know if they planned that, or it may be some positives from that, but I want to make sure we're talking about the logistics, because we really only have what early voting starts less than a month.
Well, my conversation with the elections director is that she still has her pipeline in place of poll workers. There was the concern that some of these were in that category of retired or more senior people, and their exposure to the general public was of great concern, and which probably led to the 2 postponements already. So hopefully by June 9th, we will be a little healthier community, and she will still have access to that pipeline to have the number of workers that she requires. I have inquired with some departments about possibility of using county employees as under the other duties required, but then we would still have the same concern about exposing people to the public. So my understanding is, hey, all counties are dealing with some of these same issues.
Yeah.
But by having June 9th, hopefully we'll have a healthier community, and she still has her pipeline of workers. They've already done some of the initial training from the last 2 postponed elections. So she just needs to pick that training back up, especially with the increase of absentee ballots that we anticipate coming in. Hopefully that will reduce the number of people at the polls, but we still have to have a full operation. Even though people have the option to do absentee ballots, we still have to have a full operation at every polling place.
Do we know at this time of any polling places that have opted out? Because I know it is volunteer based for the ones that are government facilities.
Well, the ones that we had to verify with the schools, because they were closed, but Bibb County Public Schools has agreed to allow us to use their facilities, and Middle Georgia State has agreed to allow us to continue to use this facility, even though they're going to change buildings, because the one building had a power issue with the new equipment. We had to have more dedicated power line or more dedicated power sockets because of the additional equipment. So the only change that I'm aware of is in Middle Georgia, but it's just in a different building, but there will be ample signage to show that the polling location just has moved from buildings, but it's still at the same location.
In this budget, no, this is my last question. In this budget number, I know that you, and I want to thank you, you've been doing a good job. We did a great job of distributing PPE equipment to our public safety and employees that are working throughout our government. Is that something that we've considered in this budget line right now for, I guess, those volunteers that will come on, or do we have enough in stockpiles that we?
The answer to your question is no. The PPE is not a part of this budget, but we've just been handling that through normal departmental requests, and we are collecting that data just in case there is a reimbursement from the federal government. So if she makes her request for PPE, emergency management and our facilities department are distributing it as departments are requesting it.
Okay. Question, comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
I've spoken to and talked to the election supervisor, Ms. Janetta. They have just continued on with their process. I don't think they've slowed down their process or anything. I think it just helps those running for office to extend their process to be able to get people out and get them educated about absentee ballots. I'm going to ask Mr. Mayor if our PR department can begin to do tutorials. I've spoken to individual commissioners, but I think the PR department can do a better job as far as doing tutorials similar to the same way we did with the parking meters, that we've got to begin to use our resources to educate the public on how simplified it may or may not be to use absentee balloting, and how do you get the word out? I think also this commission may need to look at organizations, nonprofits such as I think it's Georgia Women, and I was going to reach out to Claire Cox, that we've got a partner maybe with them. The food bank is offering food services. So maybe we can partner between our PR department, Chris Flores' office, Georgia Women, Jeff Batcher with the that department, and have people to come out and bring their absentee ballots out. And because it's as simple as people can't get to the post office to get a stamp. And we've got to do something to ensure that this election process moves smoothly for everybody. There are a lot of new candidates that's running for office that don't have the advantage that some of us have as incumbents. And I know y'all don't like me saying that, but this process just has to be fair for everybody. And we just have to do more, I think, to help the public and to help everybody, so nobody will come back and challenge this election process, these dates, or anything. And in particular, I'm going to even ask committee chairs that Mr. Mayor, a lot of stuff came through committee of the whole today, but we have got to allow committee chairs to go ahead and function during this process by Zoom as well. Yeah, I mean, this is life as we know it. So committees have to function as well. And y'all could use Zoom, and these committee chairs and committees can use Zoom just like we're doing today, so they can have the information, especially our finance committee. Because Mr. Mayor, you and I know Julie is working hard on a budget, but the public is going to want to know what's happening and to be informed. So I just want to put that out there and really get some thoughts from others as we move forward on this. And of course, we're going to always support our Board of Election and give them what they need.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good comments, and we'll certainly work. I'm confident that Chris Flores is doing his part to put the word out about the options for voting because we do want everybody to vote, and we want to make it as easy for them to vote as we possibly can. So yeah, we'll certainly look into that. Is there further question, comment, or concern about this supplemental appropriation for the Board of Elections? If not, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, and the ordinance is approved. The final ordinance, item K, has already been taken care of, but we voted on that earlier in the meeting. So that brings us to the end of our agenda. Any points of personal privilege or anything that anybody wants to say?
I'm interested in committees meeting by Zoom. I mean, what are their thoughts?
Yeah.
I'll just have to turn that over to somebody like Rachel and IT department and Chris to figure out, whether we could make it part of a bigger meeting or exactly what. I don't know how we would do that, because there's a host and a this and a that and the other. So but I'm not trying to say it can't be done. I'm just trying to say that we just need to figure out what to do. I'm not assuming.
Can't we do it in the same way that we're sitting here? I mean, there's no difference in when we're all sitting in the room together and the chair just chairs the meeting. And we all have the emails with the agendas and all of that. So I've been wondering that too. This has been, kind of efficient doing it this way. And we haven't had other items that we have seen on the agenda that couldn't be handled this way. But there are several items on here that should have been in a different committee. So the whole court thing should have been probably in public safety. But I think I've always said that we as chairs, we need to function if we're truly going to be and represent the true functions of government or the arms of government. And right now, I mean, everybody's legislating. It looks like
we will check into that, and
legislating.
we'll check into that and see. And again, I really am hopeful that the governor does not have to extend his order, and it's currently scheduled, I think, to end his shelter-in-place order. It's April the 30th is my recollection. So we've got one more committee meeting day, and that would be on something like the 28th, if I'm thinking right. And we'll see between now and then what we can do in that regard. I'll be glad to follow up on that. Commissioner Wynn?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Commissioner Lucas. I don't see why we couldn't have been doing things the way we have been doing them with our committee chairs in charge of specific things. So, if we go to one more meeting where we have our committee meetings, I think we ought to go back to the way we've always done them on the Zoom.
We'll look into that and see what we can do to accommodate it. Any other questions, comments, or concerns to come before us? If not, we've reached the end of our agenda, and without objection, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
Got a motion, and without objection, we are adjourned.